Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Sabrina, thanks for having me. I love being in the room with you. So this should be a fun conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. And I always love your energy. It's always so positive and bright, and you're always smiling. So you make my day, honestly.
Right back at you.
So today, I really wanted to talk a little bit about the mindset, and who better to ask than you? This is stuff that you cover with clients all the time. So before we get into that, would you mind just to take a moment to introduce yourself and what it is that you do for our audience?
Oh, sure. Michelle Smith. I am an executive coach. I do leadership development. I'm a lifelong learner with a growth mindset. I tell people that I'm going to be learning and growing until I'm 6 feet under or an urn on someone's mantle.
I love that.
And background in finance and process improvement, certified. And I love the connection we have. I went through a hypnotherapy certification course. While I don't do hypnotherapy on clients, it's really impacted, and it's just part of those nuggets that I pull into coaching, and then change management, and the stuff, all the stuff around just humans.
That is great. So when you took hypnosis as a course, was that just to learn the dialogue and maybe practice on yourself, or how did
It's
it come
interesting.
about?
So I'll give you the backstory on part of this, right? Because this was back in the late 80s that I used to smoke cigarettes, right? For like 12 years, 12 and a half years, pack and a half to 2 packs a day. So I was a smoker.
It's heavy, yeah.
And yeah, I was sitting with a buddy of mine, and this was in San Diego, and the newspaper was there, and he goes, "Oh, there's a stop smoking, hypnotherapy stop smoking program for $39." Okay.
That's a steal.
He goes, "Do you want to go?" Because it was a group thing. And I had tried so many times to stop and couldn't. It was the willpower thing that was trying, and so, and plus the habits that we get into. And
That's
so I went, and there was probably 150 people in this room. And so he did some pre-talk on stuff beforehand, which I realize is actually setting up now that I know for the hypnosis and the journey. And we all went out and had our last cigarette, and we came back in. And he did some programming early on just around what non-smokers do, right? And so I know now he was talking to the subconscious. I didn't have a cigarette after that. Walked out. No, there were no cravings anymore. Because I mean, anybody who stopped smoking, it's cravings. What I did learn later, and this was when I went through the hypnosis and then some other programs, is smoking's a habit. It's not an addiction.
right.
And so, unlike caffeine or others, we're going to have a routine that's a habit. Your body actually gets addicted to caffeine. And so, there are withdrawal symptoms that you have. I had no withdrawal symptoms from
Wow.
stopping smoking because it was a habit. My body wasn't addicted to this stuff. And so you'll go through a purging and all that stuff. But yeah, I just stopped. And so I knew it worked. And so when the opportunity came around to learn about it, what I would love to do is practice more to where
Yeah.
I can do hypnosis, and be able to add that as, an offering for the clients that I serve, because I know it. I mean, I went through and practiced hours and everything, but I don't know it to where I'm going to charge someone for it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah. So it's one of those perks of being a really great family member who's
Yeah,
close or
there you go. There you go. And on self, because I think the thing is, Sabrina, when you understand the power that we have, the control that we have, and then you begin to understand what aspects of us are controlling our experiences, it's like I can change it.
Yes. And that is something that is so fascinating. I agree with you there. So, if you were to pick out one little nugget of advice for people that you would want to expand on and have them pay a little bit more attention to throughout their day,
Hmm.
what would that piece of advice be concerning the mindset?
I'll give you one that comes up a lot with humans that I'm in the room with, and then we don't realize, and I think it bears talking about and being explicit about, is the language that we use. And I always say words matter, and the most important ones are the ones we say to ourselves.
Yes.
The language that we use around things like, I am stressed, I am overwhelmed, I am fill in the blank, whatever that blank is be aware of that language, pay attention to it, because it's contributing to what you're experiencing and what's going on, and potentially the hole that you're digging for yourself, right? So,
Absolutely.
for instance, I'm capable, I'm vibrant, I'm happy, versus I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm worried, I'm not good enough, I'm not good at this, I suck at this, whatever it is, right? Because what happens is we say it enough times with enough emotion. And by the way, people that are saying stuff like that are saying it a lot. I hear it just in coaching sessions. It becomes our identity, one of them. We have a number of identities, by the way. And when it becomes our identity, then our brain will do everything in its power to align what we do, our behaviors, our experiences, to who we are, our identity. So
Yes.
it's simple language shifting to where, one client, it's like, she's like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm heard it several times in probably the first 30 minutes that I met her. And I'm like, so what's happening when you're feeling this way? Because you're owning this identity. So she's like, well, she was in a newer role, and maybe there's a lot of, deadlines. And she goes, well, there's a lot of new and different stuff, I'm dealing with. I said, great. So how do you feel if you replaced I am overwhelmed with, wow, there's a lot of really new and different, challenging things happening, whatever that is. And she smiled. I said, there you go. So 2 weeks later, she came back. And she goes, Michelle, I had no idea how many times I was saying those words. Because you don't until you have an awareness of it. And she said, and I said, so what's different, right? And
Yeah,
she
the
goes, I'm completely different. She said, I don't have to go home now to my fiance and go stay away from me for 10 minutes so I can decompress. She said, I show up differently with, my team, the people that I support, the people I'm working with. It's all from literally stop saying I am overwhelmed to saying, wow, there's a lot of really new and challenging things happening right now.
So in other words, reframing the way that you're seeing.
Yes, night and day. That would be the one main thing, because I think we get in this self-fulfilling prophecy kind of space, and we
Yes.
don't even realize that all it is a shift in those words, the language, that we're on a different trajectory. We can show up differently. We're not bearing the burden of all this stuff as our brain is trying to, you know, make sure that we're aligned to what our identity is.
I agree with you so much there. And I think when you're going through your day and you're doing the typical tasks that you take on for whatever position you're working, you start to identify with those tasks. Oh, this is me because this is what I do all day. And so, for those people who are stuck in those habits of taking in, well, this is me because this is what I do, how can you help them to separate that? Instead of identifying with the work they do and claiming that as their identity, how can we help them to shift?
So the word that comes to mind for me is roles, because we play a lot of different roles.
Yes.
And for instance, I've got the role of a mom, right? Not parent role anymore because my kids are grown, but I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, I'm a coach, right? I'm an advisor. Maybe I'm a mentor. I'm a consultant with expertise. Maybe I'm a change management expert. So I step into different roles, but none of those are my identity. They're aspects of who I am and what I bring to the table and skill sets that I have. And so if you think about it, for instance, people that maybe you're a CEO or, a leader in an organization, that
Mhm.
person that shows up, that role, if you will, that you have there is different than the role that you're going to have as the partner in the family unit you may be in, or someone's best friend. So don't take it on as this. And what I heard you say too is, well, this is just how it is because this is who I am or what I do, right? Is I encourage people to challenge the confines that we may find ourselves in because the majority of the time they're self-imposed.
Mhm.
So, it's like and I'm going to tag on another term, executive presence. I've had plenty of people that I've been in the room with that as they're looking to advance in their career, one of the things maybe they want to work on, I had a coach who say this, is executive presence. And she said, but I think I laugh too much to be. And I said, so say more about that.
Yeah.
Because there was this image that she had of what executive presence was, right? It's almost like, well, if you're an adult, you can't be a kid and have fun. So if
Exactly.
I'm a senior leader, I can't laugh and joke around.
Right.
And we shackle ourselves with those interpretations of what we can and cannot do. And I encourage people to challenge that stuff. So that's the whole idea of transparency and everything else. Bring who you are to the table. Bring who you are. Don't bring everything because clearly you're not going to act at work like you do at home. But you don't have to totally take all that stuff off. Because if
Right.
you're an executive that can laugh and joke around and be free, you're going to let more people in because the walls aren't up. You're going to make more connections, which is what you need to do. That's where we're humans. We need to connect. So I think that's the other piece of it is challenge the definition that we believe something has or a role has. There's a visual I had Dolly, Chat GPT, help me create because I say it all the time. We bury ourselves in shoulds.
Yes, we do.
So this image is literally these pile of papers that created this mountain of shoulds, on the paper. But it's that visual that reminds us it's like get out from underneath that pile of shoulds. Don't do that anymore. Create your own definition of who this is to navigate. And it doesn't mean that you blow off all the stuff, but what is it to be respectful and show up as your authentic self that you're actually inviting people in the role that you have, whatever that role may be. So,
That is such great advice. Such great advice because I can't tell you how many times that I have gone through just in the past in my life. I was like, well, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, or I should have this so that I can project this. And the list goes on. And it's like a horribly undefined book that we're all following, but yet we don't know who made those rules. So I love that you even brought that up. That's incredible.
yeah, the visual, I think I created it to use as B-roll in one of my podcasts that I was on because I was doing shorts for it. And it was just like, but it's true. And I think it's important for us to recognize and pay attention because I'd still do it. Well,
Yeah.
I should do, and I stop myself mid-sentence. I'm like, okay, Michelle, stop this. Don't do that.
Well, we're all going to have those moments. We're all
Yeah,
human.
yeah.
So no problems recognizing that. I do it.
No, it's a journey. It's just
It
a journey. Yeah.
is. So, what I'm always curious about is how do we tell people where to start when they're looking to make some adjustments in the way that they think about things,
Mhm.
and they're looking to achieve that growth mindset, and I put it in air quotes because
Yes.
it's a different meaning to everybody.
Um, it's interesting when you ask where to start, and so I'll go back to and I think it's AA says this, awareness is the first step in recovery. I joke with people and tell them awareness is the first step in recovery.
Yeah.
And the recovery is that you want to do something different. And so we first have to become aware of what current state is, right? It's like the story that I said about, I'm overwhelmed and, that somebody was doing. She had no idea how much it was being said. And so part of it is there's a couple things is start with where you don't feel good in your body. Okay. So maybe you're dreading doing whatever, right? Going to a meeting, having a conversation with another human, maybe going to work on Monday, or maybe it's, the fact that Friday's here already. Whatever that thing is that you're not looking forward to, you're dreading, you're feeling yuck about it. And then ask yourself, what's going on here? Because the moments that it's important for us to start is not necessarily that, oh my God, I'm elated, I'm so excited, because those we want to do more of, but it's understand what's getting in the way of having more of that. So those moments that you're not looking for, dreading, and go, what is happening? What am I feeling right now? Where's this coming from? Because that's the awareness piece, right? Is to start understanding what is it? And then the thing is, okay, maybe it's a meeting with somebody, right? You're dreading that. Maybe you're having a one-on-one with your boss and you're not looking forward to it. So what's going on here? Why am I feeling this way? And I'm going to say the next thing of it, odds are there's some story or narrative assumption that you've got going that is underlying and surrounding or pertaining to whatever that event is that you're going to go to, or whatever that thing is. Surface that thing. What am I telling myself right now about this meeting? I'm in trouble. It's not going to be good news. It's going to, whatever it may be. And then, but ask yourself that stuff and then flip it to the point of, what outcome do I want? Because I don't think a lot of us live intentionally with what we want. We're too busy telling ourselves what we don't want.
Yes,
And where focus goes, energy flows. And so if I'm focused on, I don't want this to happen, I don't want to get fired, I don't want to, spend another minute with XYZ, then that's where energy is going to go. And so you're going to literally have energy going toward this thing that you don't want. And it's not going to remove it, it's going to magnify it. So
absolutely.
flip it and focus on what you do want. To say, you know what, I got a one-on-one with my boss. I actually want to be able to talk about what more career options that I want. Maybe I want more of a challenge. Maybe I feel like I'm ready for more. Maybe I want to get feedback so that I can be considered for the next open position. Maybe I want to take lead on something, right? So I'm going to focus now on, I want to bring this topic up because that's what I want. I want to do more of XYZ. And you're pay attention to how your body feels, right? When you shift that language that you use and start focusing on what you want, and then also pay attention to others' reactions and
Yeah.
responses to that, because your energy is going to be different when you show up. You're not going to be dreading it. You're not going to be Eeyore when you show up in the meeting.
No,
Yeah, you're actually going to be excited, or as excited as it is for you. Maybe you're not that excited, but your energy is going to, like I tell people, even if you put a smile on your face, if you're feeling crappy about something, that energy enters the room long before you do. So it's not fake it till you make it. It's literally shift to what you're looking forward to, or what the focus is, and that energy in you will shift. And when that happens, the other person will notice. So I'll stop talking because that was a lot.
no, I love it. I always just give people the space to say what they have to say, and I be quiet. And people don't like that. They want to hear me talk a little bit more, but I'm not an interrupter. So thank you.
Well, thank you for listening.
Yes, absolutely. You make some really great points because in my past experiences, that's exactly how it's been. It was to make the change that I needed to make going into the next meeting, because you're giving an example I know all too well about. I used to be terrified to go in and speak with my boss because she had this really stern, forceful presence.
Hmm.
And she was the type of boss that everybody was intimidated by. And so I let everybody else's opinion and thoughts of that affect my own.
Hmm.
So I'd always go into each meeting nervous, no matter what it was that we were going to talk about. And the way that I finally made that adjustment and shift was, what do I want to learn from this meeting today? Or what do I want to get out of it? And the moment I asked myself that, went into that meeting sitting up straight and tall instead of hunched over and like
Mhm.
head down, scared to speak. It really does start to make a difference. And when you
Mhm.
see yourself making that change, you have that much more confidence to go forward and start making other changes.
Mhm.
And so it's a great recommendation on a place to start. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, what was different with your boss in that example that you gave when you made that shift?
There was nothing different about my boss. That's a great point. Nothing. She was the same old boss I'd always gone in to meet and was terrified about.
That's funny.
So
Yeah.
it was just asking myself that question to get myself thinking about it in another way. Instead of thinking about her presence, I was thinking about what I wanted to get out of that meeting.
Yeah. A recommendation, Sabrina, that came to mind too is, because feedback is powerful, right? And so we've got your perspective and your feedback from your body and how you felt, right? Because literally it's like I wasn't hunched over anymore. I sat up tall and I went in there. I encourage coaches all the time as they're on their path of learning and growing and shifting to get those feedback points, right, from people that you work with all the time, and something along the lines of this: hey, I've been working on this, and this is the difference that I made, because the shift that I'm doing, because I think it's important for other people to get feedback on that as well, because it's like, I
I
knew
agree.
something was different about you but didn't know what it was, kind of thing. And then also one ups, especially people that you report to, they may just be busy spinning all their plates and not necessarily pay attention to certain things. But it allows them the opportunity to go, you know what, let me pay attention and let me look for that, so that you've got another feedback point, as you're learning and growing on your journey too. Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you for sharing that additional piece of information as well. So, I'm curious about how you got started in this entire journey. Like, was there aside from starting hypnosis, I know how you
Yeah,
started,
yeah.
but how did you start to make the energy discoveries that you made about yourself? How did you discover that you had this passion to help other people to get in the same kind of mind space?
Yeah. It's an interesting thing and so when you just asked that question, I went back to, this was back 2001 maybe. I had the opportunity, because I'm, and I tell people I'm a recovering perfectionist. So you talk about identities, right? You talk about identities. I'm a recovering perfectionist. And when you own perfectionism, it is a very stressful place to be in your body.
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity, to go to, and it's like a blessing to go to this, emotional intelligence boot camp. And it was 2.5 hours away from where I worked and lived, because I was up in the mountains in Plumas County.
Oh, wow.
And my boss had known of this, and my boss's boss, the CEO of the hospital they worked at, and had made the connection. It was 3 days, and then there was like a 2-week break, and then we were back for 5 days on site. I mean, this was intensive. And when I went through that stuff, it helped unlock, I'm going to say, a lot of stuff in me at that time. And I think, Sabrina, because I went through that, I mean, significant change, and these are the things I'm talking about, is before, when I would drive, my hands literally hurt because I was clamping the steering wheel, right? Because I was never at a point that I was actually just relaxed. I
Yeah.
wasn't, I was always on and intense, right? So when you live in that space that I lived in, and it can play out in a number of different ways of identities or perceptions or shoulds or all the stuff, right? And but when I left after that first 3 days and I was driving back home, I realized I wasn't tense.
Wow.
And when, for me, it was like this really, and people are like, really, Michelle? But for me, it was like this big shift that took place. And the fact that I had the power by going through what I went through, just from emotional intelligence point of, and part of it was unlocking all these shoulds and burieds and expectations, all the stuff, right? I was the oldest kid. I mean, all the stuff that you bury
All
yourself
the
in.
pressures.
Um, Now, when I went back into my natural habitat, stuff started to creep in, which is why growth mindset, lifelong learner. And after a while, so I went back for the 5 days, and I mean, it was very freeing. And I thought, I need to understand this more, but I would need to understand this more. And I was still in this finance space. I mean, my undergrad's IT, with a focus on clinical informatics. My master's is in healthcare information, healthcare administration.
Bit
Um,
different.
so, I mean, it's like, it's not leadership development, energy, and everything else. And I'm human. And the human was experiencing all this stuff as I went along and started giving it back at some point because I didn't stop learning. That's just when I started learning.
Yes.
And then to understand so much more. And when you start to unlock and realize we have power, it's in us. We can
Yes.
shift it. And it's not just the energy power, it's the power to shift our thinking and the programming that we've had, because no, no, I don't know anyone that's actually grown up with people that got certified in parenting, right?
No.
So we're all being raised by people who are doing the best that they can do.
Exactly.
And it depends of, whatever degrees. And I had a great childhood. That being said, there's still stuff that happened in my childhood that impacts us as adults. So whether it's hypnotherapy or it's intentional work around letting stuff go, that and things happen, we get hurt and we pack it in, right? I have a friend of mine, she'd say, put on your big girl panties and get forward. Well, it literally means suck it up and
Yes,
move
it does.
on, which we should be doing the opposite. We should be letting it go and move forward, but we aren't taught to let it go.
No.
Right. And so it's just those kind of things that got me to where it more and more, and I had the opportunity to follow what fills my cup up, which is this stuff. And so I continue to learn so that I can bring nuggets to clients and share on the podcast that I have or conversations with you. And I learn from everyone I'm in the room with. And a lot of it is validation for stuff that I know.
Mhm.
And then I learn different aspects because there's so many layers to it.
Oh, there's always so many layers, but that was powerful because I could feel the pressure as you were just telling that story. I could feel how much pressure you had put on
Mhm,
yourself just to hold that image that you wanted to project.
mhm.
And then letting it go that moment that you told me about the emotional intelligence, and that in itself was powerful. I could tell it had a huge impact on you. So thank you for opening up and sharing that for one.
Yeah, thanks for the question because you walked me back through memory lane.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that. And I'll make one final comment because uh, you and I both know this is that the mind doesn't make the distinction between what we're remembering and what's actually happening live. And so I say that because when we recall those happy moments or we recall those moments of letting go or whatever it may be, we're reliving those in our body. And so you can flood your system with dopamine, you can get rid of the cortisol, you can do all that stuff, which is why that stuff is so powerful to just step back into that moment when you were laughing, blissful, grateful, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
because your brain thinks it's happening again and will respond accordingly.
You're so right. And it doesn't matter if it's been 20 years down the
Mhm.
road, it still feels it. And that response you'll get every time.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for that gift.
Yes, you're welcome. So, where can people find you when they want to reach out to you after this?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn, Michelle Smith, Better Possibilities. I'm at Michelle, Michele, just one L, at betterpossibilities.com. Instagram, Better Possibilities there. So just message, reach out, and or they can reach out to you, Sabrina, if they can't find me, and you find me.
Absolutely. And I'm also going to make sure to leave all that information in the chat so everybody can look out for it. But
Yeah.
thank you for joining me today. It's really
Thanks for
been a pleasure
having me.
having you.
Yeah, it's been a sheer delight, and I look forward to being in the room with you again.
Me too. Likewise. Thanks, Michelle.